Hi, and welcome to Fearless Fridays Power Up Tips. I'm Dr. Dranitsaris here again to talk to you about some of the myths we currently hold about codependence. So think for a moment. How do you define codependence? What sort of behaviors do you think of? Do you think of someone who's clingy or needy? Do you think of someone who can't help themselves but to put the needs of others before their own? Or that friend of yours who gets beaten up emotionally in the relationship all the time and tells you over and over again when you give advice for them to leave that they can't help themselves. Well, if that's the way you think of codependence, you're not alone. It's a direct result of codependence being defined out of its history, out of the medical model that codependence emerged from. Codependence in the beginning was not something of its own, but it was something that was attached to an alcoholic or a drug abuser or somebody, a gambler, somebody who had an addiction. And so in a sense, that codependence was thought of someone who had an addiction to someone who had an addiction. It's like a daisy chain almost. But really, codependence has to do with nature and nurture. It has to do with how our brains have developed and what stage of development, codependency, of course, the stage of codependency, we all get stuck in where we're not quite ready to do it alone, to stand our own ground. We're not defined enough internally, or we don't feel whole. We don't feel like we're enough. And so we still need and use objects, people, to get our needs met. And that we can be codependent in relationship to our children. We can be codependent in relationship to partners. It doesn't matter. It's the way our brain will automatically bond. We find a way in to get psychological security, get our needs met through a certain set of behaviors and strategies. It really is time to redefine codependence and look at it as a developmental delay and how we do relationships so that we feel empowered to do something about it. And that's the key word. We have choice, especially when we are not getting our needs met in a relationship. We have the choice to not shift into our own either dominant or submissive behaviors that we use, the strategies that we use in order to keep the relationship safe and secure. And, it's like we abandon ourselves for the sake of the relationship. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the first myth about codependence, that codependence is a mental illness. Again, how many of you think it has to do with you being neurotic, that you're codependent, or that you need to get psychological help, or you can't do anything about it because it is a mental illness? Well, it's commonly believed that codependence is being addicted, but it really is an attachment problem. It's a problem with we can't detach. We attach with anxiety, and so we attach in avoidance of being connected to the other person in any meaningful way. And so because we believe it's a mental illness, it's very easy for us to say, well, it's not my problem. I can't do anything about it. I've been to see so many people. I've been in a 12-step program. I've done all these things, and I'm still codependent. Because what happens is our sense of our own value and our contribution to the dysfunctional relationships that we create has not changed. It's not changing because we're not owning something. In our society, we call illnesses mine. You hear someone talk about my diabetes or my heart condition or my codependence. as though it's something that, we carry around with us. It's not really anything to do with us, or that we've created the circumstances in our body or in our brain for the conditions to exist. And so rather thinking of it as, this is my mental illness, I can't help myself, start breaking it down and thinking of it as a collection of behaviors that one by one can be changed. Because each of those behaviors, whether it's dominant behaviors or submissive behaviors, you have the power to change it. You do not have to caretake. That's a choice. You do not have to jump in and rescue someone because they're in distress. That's a choice. You do not have to be a therapist to your partner. You're their lover. You're their partner. You're their friend. Doesn't mean that you do it for them. And the comes to mind that the old couple of the husband sitting saying, "I'm thirsty," and the wife dutifully gets up and goes and gets him a cup of tea. That is codependence at its finest. And again, in some relationships, it can work when two people are contributing and meeting certain needs. But when we're unhappy in our relationship because our integrity is being compromised, we have to examine how we're giving our power away and stop it. The reality is, it is not a mental illness, because dysfunctions aren't mental illnesses. Dysfunctional behavior, it's not mental illness. These behaviors can be changed if we recognize the fear that we have and hold our value. Looking for help? Make sure you contact me. I'm always available for a conversation or consultation on how you can power past your codependent strategies and have fulfilling, joyful, healthy relationships with everyone in your life. So until next time, when we look at another myth on codependence, I'm Dranitsaris, and have a fearless Friday.